And that little girl was me.
Well, happy Thursday. Welcome to Truth to Power with me, Dr. Maxey, the accountability specialist. And we have our other co-host, which is the communication specialist, Mr. Wendell King. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Dr. Matthews?
Child, I'm trying to get through this week. It's almost over.
We have one more day and we're going to be at the end of this.
Yes, because I'm telling you, it's been one crazy week.
Yeah. Well, it's been quite a week. We have our vice presidential nominee. Yeah. We had the DNC. We just had a lot going on this week. So This week has been productive.
Yeah. And then I had some accountability things going on with TDCJ. Yeah, so y'all need to stay tuned for that on tomorrow, because it may be some fireworks popping off of that.
Oh, so eyes need to be open.
Yes, my eyes going to need to be open, especially with inmates and also employees that have been, contracting the COVID-19 virus.
Oh, wow.
They have policies that are in place that pretty much violate the CDC. It's a lot.
Oh, so it's going to be thick.
Oh, it's going to be, look here. Y'all get ready, because, baby, it's going to be something serious.
Wow. Well, we've had a very busy week, but we're ending it on a high note because we have someone very special here today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Nathan Maxey, he works diligently in the community. As long as I've known him, he's been a servant worker. And so now he's working in a position that was uncommon to me for him. So I'm very, very interested in finding more out about the sector which he navigates through now. So I think we should probably bring him on in so we can just get some conversation going and find out more about him.
Yes, because I'm all about learning new stuff.
Yes, I know you are. Hey, Nathan Maxey.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Finding yourself?
I am fabulous this Thursday.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad to have you and just so interested for sure to want to know about you and what you do. So can you tell our viewers about you and what is it that has motivated you in this type of field of work?
Okay. All right. Well, I love to say I'm a proud graduate of Texas Southern University, of course, and I graduated with my bachelor's in social work. I started college at 20, probably about 26, 27. I remember just being growing up. My household was like, my mom was a single parent mother. So she was like, you need to just get a job. That was the focus. And so I am the first in my family to graduate from college. So that has been amazing. And so it begins that generation. So my sister went on to get her bachelor's, and now she's working on her master's. And now my nieces and nephews are going to college. So that's very beautiful. But I graduated, got a bachelor's in social work. And when in social work, I was like, I'm a social worker at heart, but I felt like I needed to do more. And so that's why I went ahead and obtained my master's in public administration, because I really feel when you really want to make change in the community, it's about policy and management. And that's where really effective change is. And that's what, motivated me. And so graduating from high school, I remember just having a full passion for wanting to help people. And so in helping people, it's not just social work. Social workers aren't the only ones that can help people. I love the social work field, but we can expand in different areas. Social work needs to be at every level of politics, government, and social service agencies. We can make a difference.
Let me ask you a question, because making a difference is kind of where I want to go with this, where I want to move on with this at. So can you give us an example of a specific time that you found it maybe a little difficult to help someone else navigate themselves to better health, or a community group maybe that you found it difficult just trying to help people help themselves?
Right. That I encountered that. I currently work for a nonprofit here in Houston. And so navigating and learning the field. And so what I'm experiencing and what I experience, a lot of people work in the area of social service that don't necessarily lack the passion. And so a lot of times people take jobs and they just do the job. And so what I try to do is tell people what drives you to do well in your job, and working with the population, the individuals that have, we know they have health disparities and issues. Is that you have to be people first. Think about it as, this is what I train my staff. It's like we have to stay what we call client center. If you always, everything that you do, and you put the client first, and if you was in those shoes, what type of service would you want? And that educating people on reminding people, that's what we're here for. We're here to serve our population and our clients. And so that comes with that.
And it's all about being empathetic when you're dealing in these type of issues, especially in social work, because you have, and it's hard to find good people who very passionate and not just in it for a paycheck, because you have some folks that are just in it for a paycheck to the fact where they really can care less. You know, hey, I'm gonna do what I need to do this time, and if, hey, whatever that you don't get, then honey, that's just what you're not about to get.
And
But
Dr.
like,
Candace, you said it perfect, empathy. And people forget that's the one word because it's about how you make a person feel. Brene Brown has a great quote that I love that says, you want to make something better, you got to connect with the person.
Wow.
And so in that, that's empathy. And we forget that regardless if a person is homeless, you know, if they are seeking some type of social service, I mean, we get so caught up on the circumstances and oh, this person, I hate, you know, like with everything going on with COVID, people like, oh, they're trying to get over, or you know, the whole unemployment thing. It's like you don't know what it's like not to have anything, so it's so easy
Wow.
for us to judge individuals.
correct.
So we like what you said, empathy, and for the individuals.
Absolutely, because that's even like when, like I was saying earlier about a situation that's dealing with TDCJ, right? Okay, so you have not just the workers that work there, right? You also have inmates who is actually someone's son, daughter, dad, father, you know,
Mhm.
grandma, grandpa. You know, this is bigger than us. So we got to look at what is for the greater good. You know, you have to put yourself in that situation. What if that was you? When you want somebody to fight for you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That
And
is. And what
yes,
we do, Candace, is we forget. I'll never forget. I used to work for a managed care organization, and people don't want to do something unless it's affect them. Once they are affected, then they have a whole different, you know, entitlement or a sense of overview of what's really going on. So until someone in those shoes, and it should not take that. You know what I'm saying? It's our health system needs overhaul. We know that our police department need an overhaul, and we're not trying to eradicate those things, but we're looking at what makes it just, and that's it.
right. And so that leads to this here. So,
Hmm.
what is the most challenging part of identifying and contacting members of high risk or otherwise targeted groups, such as members of minority populations, you know, like low income populations or
Hmm.
women? Can you share an example with us about that?
Well, I'm going to give you one word. It's trauma.
Mm,
I have, it took years of, it's myself, I'm an advocate. I think people don't talk enough about therapy. And so I'm a strong component. If you really want to be a better person, you've got to get yourself in therapy. And so when we're talking about facing challenges of people at high risk and targeted groups and minority population, it's trauma. So
Hmm.
you got to think about what this person brings to the table. So, for instance, when we have clients that come in, the client may have an attitude. The client, they come in and we are offering them a service. However, you don't know that that client came in off the bus. That client probably had to beg to get the $1.25 to get on the bus. The client has dealing with all kind of mental health issues, and so they bring all of that into your agency, and they bring all of that to you. Another good example is that I look at people. You know, we attack like black-owned businesses, and we attack waiters and waitresses. They get it the big time, but do you know what that waitress brings with them when they bring? They don't just bring you the service; they bring you the trauma that comes along with it. Do you know what it took that waitress to get there that morning? You
Hmm.
know, she have three kids, so we look at, oh, she got a bad attitude. Why does she have a bad attitude? You know what I'm saying? Let's get some empathy. What was her day like? Her feet hurt. She's barely making a minimum wage, trying to feed two kids. Whatever the situation is, we got to remember everybody brings some type of trauma with them in who they are.
and if you're not able to identify those specific indicators, then this is where incidents happen. Just like
Right,
the Floyd situation, right?
right,
You really
exactly.
didn't know where this man actually came from. You didn't know that this man might have had mental health issues. You didn't know if this man might have had drug problems. You
Right.
don't know that this man may have actually had issues with the police. Hence explains why he was telling you, you know,
Mhm.
the way how he was acting. See, if you would look at those indicators, you would be able to handle the situation better. Just
Right.
like it was a situation that happened with well, I'm just gonna say black people and the police, right? Okay, we've all been traumatized by this. We've seen this with George Floyd on TV. We've seen this in our own neighborhoods that's coming up. So do you actually think that we're going to respond appropriately once we're stopped? You know what I mean? First of all, we want to make sure, because we're traumatized to the fact that we're not going to be the next victim. So we're going to always be on guard. We're going to have our camera ready. We're going to make sure that things are in place. So again, that's why it's important that law enforcement need to have trauma-informed training. So they to identify key indicators so they can be incident prevention.
But the thing though, Dr. Candace, real quickly, is that I was in a training and I noticed that, so you have a trainer that comes in and it's about quality training. So it's not just hiring a trainer, but the thing is a trainer needs to bring in the expertise, but you have to bring trainers that look like you. When you are facilitating a training, they have to also, is important that they also
engage.
That they give real life scenarios. Don't give me an example that your audience cannot relate to. Exactly. So when you facilitate training, you have to look at what the person's credentials are, but do they look like the audience? Are they going to tailor that presentation particular to the audience? So they need to be able to connect. I don't ever want to sit in a training if I'm not going to be able to connect to the subject matter.
Oh Lord, I've been to several of those, and I was on bathroom breaks for a long time.
You don't learn anything. You don't learn anything.
I'll be on my phone going on bathroom breaks.
Right.
But then let me bring it this far then. Okay, so what about with okay, so we talked about the George Floyd piece of it. So what about with engaging when you're doing these trainings? What about engaging the audience? Because again, you know, it's a lot.
And that's where, you know, everybody wants to call themselves a facilitator. Oh, I'm a facilitator and I have all these certificates and I'm trained to do this. But if you're not constantly doing research and, you know, with facilitating come good communication skills, you don't when I'm in something, I listen to the most quiet person in the room. The quiet person, you call and pick up on them, they probably have the best answers, the best questions. What I found is the people that are quiet are usually the loudest people. But we forget about them because somebody in there raising their hand, want to be acknowledged and feel like they got something to say, and it's really a lot of times irrelevant. But the person in the back room, the person in the back room that's quiet, that's observed, they just not that vocal. But you call on them, they have the best answers. So, but those are the ones that often are left out, but they usually have the best answers.
You know, I would when you said that, I thought about George Bush, George W. Well, it wasn't a quote, but they pulled it and made it a quote. But he said that people often call me a very quiet person, but that gives me the ability to hear the quiet people that no one else is paying attention to.
And we forget that.
That's just that brought me to that. And I was thinking about trauma and what you said about trauma. And I lack empathy. Like anybody that knows me knows that I lack empathy. But the reason I lack empathy is connected to my trauma.
Right.
You know, and so I think that people we always miss those things. Like everything comes from somewhere. Cause and effect is a part of everybody's shaping of who they are, who they will be, because where you came from will always be with you.
It is, but that's why I'm a strong component of therapy. I've learned so much. And so therapy, people are afraid of that word. It does not mean anyone is, you know, it's the way I would look at it, it's a way of improving yourself. But if you're not aware of where your trauma and why you hurt or why you feel this way, you can't become a better person. Mm-hmm. So this is why, and I tell everybody about therapy. I left my last job and I came back and I told like 3 people, I told them about my experience. I said, it's not easy to find a therapist. This is the type of one. But if anybody wants therapy, go to psychologytoday.com. You go on there, you put in what you're looking for. They have a picture. It's a great way to start. And so people don't even know where to start. And the first therapist I went to was awful. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But I went on and I found the right match. So it's about the right person that can heal. And there have been moments that I have cried, I laughed, but I learned more about myself in those therapy sessions than have learned with family, friends, or anybody else, because I am working on me. And that's
Yeah.
what's important.
Well, I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
Walk us through, because I know you work specifically with the homeless right now,
Hmm.
right? So walk
Right.
us through just a day to day, well, maybe just a good day of activity during the pandemic of
Hmm.
you trying to assist someone that is homeless. How does that
Right.
look for you?
Right. So the program that I work with and the homeless population. So what we have to realize is that there's a definition for everything. So there's a definition for funders that have what a homeless person is. So when we're talking about the homeless population, people forget we're not talking about the cousin that's staying on your couch that don't got an apartment. We're talking about one that is labeled disabled. The individual has been chronically homeless for more than a year. So that is the homeless population that we talk about. So I've had to learn that. And so there's a whole system for those individuals that are homeless. So a typical day, I manage a staff of social workers and case outreach workers. And so a typical day consists, especially during this pandemic, is really connecting the client to basic services. So it's not just housing. We're talking about the basic needs of food, shelter, bus passes. It's these other resources that have been very vital to them. So we have a client, and a lot of clients are suffer from a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of trauma. Therefore, is the reason why they're homeless, and therefore they're more likely to do substance use. And so our goal is to treat that issue. But it's hard to treat that issue when they don't have a place to stay, they don't have food. There's so many other things that they need before they can get to that area where let's treat the abuse. Let's get you into mental health services. And so our day to day is working. A client will, from one day, be ready to go into treatment, and the next day, literally change their mind. So it's about connecting with that client at that time. But what I challenge my social workers is what I talked about earlier is being person centered. We are so caught up in this world of what I call what they have deemed. We got to look at what's important to a person and what's important for a person. Okay. So what we do is we try to tell people what's important to them. We have to start to listen to the clients and say, what do you want to do? You step back and ask them. So for instance, a scenario, you have a client that needs to take they're not taking adhering to their medication. You know that this medication is important for them to take. But if
Mhm.
they're telling you that I have to go visit, I have a cat, for instance, that needs to go out. So that's what's important to them. So how can you work the what's important to them? They have this cat, they think this cat, but you got to learn how to say, okay, well, you want to be there for your cat. You know what I'm saying? So what can we do to work together? And so take yourself out of it and listen to the client, and you get so much more because it really builds a sense of that you care and that you are actually listening to the client.
Okay. And so, well, let me ask you
Mhm.
this. What is the key to success with teaching appropriate behaviors to individuals or families that are homeless?
Uh, a lot of it is you got to understand that there's policies. So you think there's policies, there's laws, there's things. So what a person wants, and what they need, they may go outside of what you available to do. You know what I'm saying? So you got to really understanding what policy implementation is, um, advising the client, but really it's about being there for them. Listening to what their needs are, like I said earlier, and becoming the expert on the subject matter that you're working with, and that's the hard part right there.
It's funny that you said that because in most of our lines of work, we're taught to take ourselves out of the equation. But I find myself in this moment in time that identifying with who I am helps me do my job better. And taking experiences of my past helps me navigate better in this place. So, can you tell us a few methods or one good method that you use to interpret, translate, or just provide mediation in your field, something from your past, and how do you apply it now?
Um, a lot of it is taking what, like I said, is that person-centered approach. Really getting the client to identify and making a connection with the client. And
Mhm.
so the things that you take in your personal life, you can take into your work. I mean, we gotta realize that people rarely want your advice. People
Mm.
really want someone to listen to them, right? So you got to remember that. So whether you are in your own personal life versus working with clients, individuals, we all work with, coworkers. If you just listen to what they're saying, they're going to tell you what they need, what they want, how they want to be treated. And so I think we're forgetting that one crucial skill of just listening. Everybody's so quick to talk over everybody, and everybody wants to be heard, and nobody is listening. You know what I'm saying? When it could be Black Lives Matter. When we're talking about, we're talking about, empathy, you know, um, all that, you got to learn to listen to a person.
Good stuff. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, and you know what, I can wholeheartedly agree with that because you have, because I mean, look at us. You know what I mean? Like we have to have somebody to talk to every now and then. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
you don't all the time want somebody that's just like, this what you need to do. This what you need to do. This what you need to do. No,
Right, right.
let me get this right. Let
Exactly.
me air out, what I'm feeling right now so I can feel a little bit better. And then that can make me kind of move strategically versus,
Mhm.
Right.
me just like, okay, let me just hear what you got to say. And then it's going to make me even more so upset. And then I'm just going to turn around and just block you out too. Right. So,
Right.
and then that brings me to this question. So, what is the most challenging part of advising clients or community groups on issues related to social or intellectual development, such as education, childcare, and problem solving?
Right. So there's this term that I've been using, and I really like it, is people first language, because words matter. So what we do is that you come in with this vocabulary, um, and we label people. And so what we have to do is what the term person first language is put into people first. What you're doing is, instead of saying a handicapped person, you say a person with a disability.
Yeah.
You say AIDS or somebody sick. It's a person living with HIV, an addict, a crackhead. It is a person in recovery.
Well,
And
somebody
whatever
Trump,
but
somebody told Trump that. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because you remember what he did,
hmm,
making fun of a disabled person.
yeah.
Like
And so
somebody
that's what we
he should have.
forget, right? And you do people, it's people's first language. So it's always looking and adding a human touch. That these people have feelings, and that, let's
Mm.
not handicap them by the disability. Even if you look at, they remember before they were called, they're the Harris Center now. They gotten away for HMRA. Everybody said a mentally retarded. They don't use that language anymore because what words matter. And so you change the whole focus when we start to think. There's this whole movement around how people want to be identified, and we take our own comfort level. We see it, but at the end of the day, it's how I want you to identify me. This is what I'm telling you. This is what I want to be called. And people are now being more conscious of what they want and how they want to speak it. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to say that, but you're denying that person who they are. They are telling you how to identify me. And so when I say I am this and I'm that, or please do not call me, handicapped. You know what I'm saying? We got to learn to listen to people.
But that's how you educate yourself too, because you don't want to be offensive. And so, and just like we had a couple shows back, like, you know, it was certain terms and words that I didn't really too much know about the LGBTQ, you know, community, or how you deal with the transgender population. And I was just really soaking it up and learning, because it could have been, you know, I could have been offensive and not knowing that I am tone deaf.
Right.
You know, the words that I'm saying, which hurt people.
Well, you know, Candace, we're all tone deaf, even when we're a part of some of these communities, because I know that I identify with myself. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Maxey can identify, or well, can attest, but I find myself being tone deaf also with Black people. I find myself being tone deaf sometimes with LGBTQ.
How do you find yourself being tone deaf with Black people with that? I want to hear this one.
Really easy, because if you are not a part, if you don't identify directly with something, it's easy to judge it. It's very easy to judge something if you don't identify with it directly. So if you are, let's say, a Black man that is from this hard hood type of living, it's easy for me to say, oh, I don't want to go in that store. Look at them. You know, or it's easy for me to be on the phone and say, oh my God, all these niggas, right? We do these things, but that's tone deaf, because you are not aware that you are at that point adding to the problem rather than the solution. And that's why I really like what Nathan was talking about as far as the language and allowing yourself to become a part of that. So when he said, instead of saying crackhead, a person in recovery, a former crackhead, a person in recovery, or, you know, I like that, because sometimes we allow our words to really suffocate our positivity.
Right. We want to celebrate people. You know what I'm saying? It, you know, there's so many doors slammed in our face. And really what you're talking about, because I was looking at the word privilege, and when we connect words, we connect privilege, but we only think about white privilege. But there's all types of privilege. There's Black privilege, there's heterosexual privilege, there's Hispanic privilege. Like, so
privilege.
These words become like this, but let's study what that word means, and you will see how everybody in the community can relate to it. And, you know, just because you identify one population, I applaud you, Candace, and that's what we need to do, is challenge our ignorance. And we use ignorance as if it's a bad word. It's not. It just says, I don't know.
Yeah.
Please educate me so I don't be ignorant. You know what I'm saying? And that's the power.
Because I'm gonna tell you, because and my whole thing is that, number one is that, again, I don't want to offend people at all, especially in the LGBTQ community, especially in uncharted waters that I'm not familiar or privy to. You know what I'm saying? So I always want to educate myself and know more, so I know how to navigate and I know how to effectively communicate with people. Now, when it gets to the point where, okay, I really don't care nothing about what you're talking about, then you're gonna get a whole nother thing. But the start off is that I want to be well educated enough so I know how to navigate.
But you have a lot of empathy.
Right. And we're not always going to get it right. One thing that we in society don't want to appreciate anymore is apologizing. I apologize. I'm sorry. And so those words, I'm sorry, are so powerful. And so individuals don't expect everybody to get it right. But when you apologize and you're really listening to try to be better, then you do better. And so you don't know everything. You're going to still get it wrong. I'm a part of a community. I don't know everything. But I'm not, I shouldn't be expected to know everything. I'm learning a lot but first of all, I got to learn about myself.
Yeah.
You know, so when I know myself and how I feel about who I am, then I can be a better person to other people. Well, but a lot of us aren't even good to ourselves. So you're definitely not going to be good to anybody else.
So true.
I'll tell you right now, Wendell, I need therapy on how to apologize, folks. Because see, when I turn around and say, and I turn around and say, I said what I said.
No, let me give you a quick lesson, Candace. A friend of mine told me, you don't apologize. You don't apologize. You apologize that it makes someone feel a certain way, but you never apologize for what you said. because you said it, you meant it, but I apologize if it made you feel a certain way.
Well, see,
That's
that's
what you're apologizing for.
because when I say what I say, I really don't care how you feel.
Yeah, you're gonna need some therapy about that.
I gotta have.
Now I just got to applaud you about your empathy. Here you go.
I'm just talking about when I get to, because we're not perfect. You know,
You think when you get to your breaking point.
When I get to this side of it, where I got to pull this up, I don't care nothing about how you feel right now, because I'm just gonna tell you what I got to tell you, and I'm done.
Right.
You know?
And that's okay, but at the same time, you can still apologize if it made someone feel some way. You can be a big person in that. You're not apologizing for what you said. You said what you said, but I'm sorry if you feel some kind of way, and that's what they have to deal with. But you know,
and I don't care, because it's like when I say, I meant it. I don't care how you feel and how you take it. I get that from my mama, y'all.
Well, I'm like that, obviously, but I do reserve the right to change my mind. Right? Because at that moment, sometimes I feel the way I feel, so I said what I said. But then a day later, I may realize, okay, you didn't have to do it that way. You didn't have to say it that way. And so that's normally when I do go back. That's why I love text messages, though, because I'd rather text my friends apologies. Because for some reason, I feel like I'm not really biting down on my
But see, what the power you could do is, because the thing is, sometimes we are so unaware of what our faults are, what our issues are. So you aware of it, so then you know that you run to a text message. What we could do is really practicing on apologizing to the person face to face, because you know that that's a challenge. And so we have to challenge ourselves in every aspect.
And that is a challenge.
At the end of the day, we want to be better people and we want to be a better person. But you have got to start with yourself internally.
Absolutely.
I agree. But I have a question for you.
Yes.
First, I'll thank you so much, because this is like really, really good. It's always good to have some ideas or some methods to try and use in your everyday life from people who actually studied people. Mm-hmm. Please, people, while you're sharing this, please, people, remember that it is always best to go to people that actually have studied, actually have worked in these fields, because their directions, the things that they give you, will be different than your Aunt Betty Sue, because Aunt Betty Sue isn't going by anything outside of her logos. But when you speak with someone who's actually worked in the industry, worked in the field, and studied it, they're giving you what they know, what they feel, and what they've learned. So therefore, there is a better balance for outcome. So thank you so much for that. But here's my question. Where did this come from with you? Like, what is it? Because you said earlier that you've always been a social worker at heart. But where did it come from? What provoked this movement for you?
This movement, I wasn't going to really share this, but you're bringing it out. And really, I am a person that's been living with HIV for 20 years. And so my whole perspective on life is totally different. But it's not my condition that I have. It's just the things that I've been through in life. And so, at 20 years, when I was diagnosed at 20 years old with HIV, I didn't even believe that I was going to be 30 years old. So, but I stand before you, a 42-year-old man that has 2 college degrees, and I've learned so much about myself. So I truly believe I'm on this earth to enlighten people. I don't want anybody to have any sympathy for me for what I'm going through or what I'm like, because everybody has their own challenges in life. And so that is mine. And that's where it comes from, is that I have a passion. I believe in people. I believe that the world could be better. I think, it takes if you get one person to make themselves better or challenge it, telling my story, I take what I live in, and I'm so out about my status, because there are a lot of people. I am the voice to those that can't come out about their status. So I'm going to do every aspect of advocating. But that's just not about HIV. I want my people to be better. You know what I'm saying? So that's where really my passion comes from, is that I have been faced with a challenge that have taken me out, and I'm able to be here because so many other people have died and I have been given the opportunity to live, and I'm going to celebrate that. But I'm also going to help people become a better person because that's the journey I'm on.
Yeah, we live in a world of people. That's the beauty of Black people for me. And it's the beauty for other people, other races, I'm sure, but I'm talking about Black people. The beauty in being Black is that we truly know what it means to take lemons and make lemonade. Whatever you throw at me and you say is going to be bad, we have a way of putting our backs up against the wall and fighting our way through. And I think that is the beauty of it, is that you allowed your passion to guide your profession. And so every day that you're at work, you're finding out something new about yourself and about your passion. So I'm overwhelmed, but it's not negative. Like, I'm not overwhelmed. It's not sympathy, because I'm a little emotional right now. But it's not sympathy. But it's more so that it's beautiful when people can find their strength and then help others with their strength. So that's awesome.
Thank you. That's beautifully stated. Woof. You got me over here emotional.
Yes. But this is powerful. This is powerful because, I mean, you defeated the odds and you still here today to help people to better themselves. That's a selfless act, and that is courage. And I very much so respect you, and I appreciate what you're doing for us.
Right. All right. I am so elated. I had not planned on disclosing that on the show, as believe that, my work is my work. And so that's just something that is a condition that I have that I work with. But it fuels the passion that I have with, making the world a better place. And I have a little part that I can do that. And I'm going to celebrate that and do that every day if I can.
And everybody has a part to play, and you're definitely doing your part. And we really appreciate what you do. Because look at you, you therapized me today. Okay.
Right. And I'm telling everybody to go to and I really want to be a strong component of therapy. And people don't talk about it. There's a lot of shame and stigma around therapy. And I really want to challenge people that, if you have insurance, you don't have insurance, seek therapy. There are opportunities out there. Like I said, psychologytoday.com. That's not a paid advertisement, but that's how I started. I just went on the site. You put in your insurance. They have a picture of the therapist. You can go on the website. They usually do a 30-minute consultation before you even decide if you want to do that, be with that therapist. And please do not be discouraged. That therapist may not work, but there is someone that you connect with. And another thing about therapy people don't know. So I feel like as a Black man, I don't need to see another Black male therapist. I don't need to see a woman. Good therapy comes in any color, shape, and size. So I'm a strong component of, our own people. You know what I'm saying? You always want to seek it. But my perception of what I needed for a good therapist is not what I got. I got totally the opposite. And I've learned so much, but not saying that I could not learn that from someone of my own race as well, because there's great therapy out there. And I really want to challenge everybody to if you can, to really get therapy.
Yeah. Well, that's another Black and brown curse, though. Is that we're going to the pastor or to the elders of the family.
Right.
And we're going to pray and talk it away as though it will somehow disappear.
And people people think, they're not equipped to know that, like go on psychology. So they're doing telehealth. So I'm doing my therapy session every week on my phone. I'm sitting on my couch in the comfort of my space, talking about me. And what therapy is, it provides you an opportunity. This person doesn't know anything about you. They're not judging you. They are going by what you're saying, and they're equipped to know and help you process. And a lot of times you sit in that therapy office, and I find myself saying, I don't figure it out on my own. And really, that's what you're doing, but you've got to take time out to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Nathan, this has been like absolutely beautiful. And I hope that everyone is sharing this. Share, 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 share.
Please.
Like. Go to YouTube, subscribe, go to Twitter, like and retweet, go to Instagram and throw us on your story and tell our business to your friends.
Yeah. This may help one of your friends that you don't even know.
Or it may help you.
Absolutely.
It may help you. So I don't know. This is kind of springing it on you, but
Mhm.
can you tell our viewers, like somewhere, if they know someone that's homeless, or they're homeless themselves, what help? Can you just give them a few areas they can go to, maybe?
Well, I think one of the key components, we have 211. They are usually overwhelmed with calls, but that's always a great start. There's also the Beacon. They work with a lot with the homeless. You can I don't know exactly their website. Um, I don't really want to promote my agency because I'm here promoting myself and talking about my
Right.
experience. And so, but if you want more information, really just Google, really seriously, homeless service in Houston. And remember, there's different type of services, but 211 is always a great start to kind of get and really Google. If you don't have access to that, I'm trying to think of a quick resource.
Well, actually, we can you don't have to stress yourself, because what we
Right.
can do is we can actually put some stuff up in the room, in our groups,
Okay.
that can give people different outlets to help them. And this is another question
Mhm.
about the homeless thing. It came back with the homeless with me. So when right now it's hot, right, and they're saying it's going to get even hotter,
Right.
and we know that when it's cold, it gets very cold, right?
Right.
But we have a homeless issue here,
Mhm.
not only in Houston, but in America, period. I have a friend that was just in Austin last weekend, and she said that it was ridiculous. She had never seen anything like that. And I was thinking, wow, they're like not even 50% of Houston, but she's saying that they're worse than Houston. So do y'all have one of the things that's always been a rumor mill is that most people that are homeless choose to be homeless.
Right.
Is that correct?
I don't like this. I don't think anybody would choose anything. You got to look at the circumstances that they have been put in. So, you know, it's because of, like I said, trauma that has happened in their lives has caused them to have an addiction issue. An addiction issue has caused them to lose their family and friend support. That addiction issue, the mental health issue, has caused them to be homeless. And so it's those social, economic, and health disparities that has caused the person to be in the situation they in. So when we say that they, want to be homeless, nobody wants to be homeless. But individuals have decided their personal preference is to be homeless versus going through the system. When you talk about a person that wants to get homeless, you run into a lot of people that don't. When you go to homeless, you go to a lot of these service places. There's an attitude with the person, so there's already this wall up that will discourage a person. So, for instance, you take a client that goes in and say, can I get this service? And the person has an attitude, or they give you a pack. And we have to fill out everything, so it's a packet. The person may be on a third grade reading level. They don't want you to know that they can't read. They're going to get up and leave, and they're not going to get the service that they need. You know what I'm saying? So it's these barriers that have caused the person to be in a situation. Unfortunately, this is what I said about policy. You know what I'm saying? I have to do an intake with the person. But it's that social worker or that intake person that's going to sit down. Don't assume that the person can't read, don't know English. Treat them with a little empathy. So, and also another thing is that homeless individuals usually are together. So there are hot areas in Houston. So if you go downtown around 6 o'clock, you go around main area, you're gonna see a lot of them because what? There's a shelter over the building that's gonna prevent them. So you go like, oh, we got a big old homeless problem. We got all these homeless people. It looks that way, and so the city of Houston is doing a great job of trying to eradicate homelessness. Now you do have those individuals that do not want to fool with the system. They don't want, because you know you got to get your Social Security card. You know they don't want people to have that information, and everybody doesn't want to hear the policy. Once you in that system,
Mhm.
you in there. That means you got to call, you got to meet this appointment every week and month, and so a lot of people don't will deal with that, and so because they don't deal with that, that is their choice that they don't want to be housed.
Truth or false? Are most homeless people on drugs?
Um,
Truth or
I would,
false?
That's definitely a false. I mean, you know, a lot of it, I would say a lot of it, like most of us, that with housing is mental health issues.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You got to realize the trauma caused the mental health issue. The mental health issues turns the person to substance use. And
Correct.
so it's just, you know,
You're trying to numb it.
it's right. Yeah. It's just like this wall that just
Yeah.
continues the situation. So they may have a substance use issue, but it's because of this and this and this and that.
So
But
everything is situational.
yeah, it's
Everything
situational.
is
So
situational.
right, and but a lot of I'm telling you, probably 90% of people that are individuals that are living or that are homeless, um, probably have a mental health issue, a mental health concern.
Mm. Well, Dr. Matthews, I hope that you got a lot because I feel like Dr.
Yeah.
Matthews because normally at the end, Dr. Matthews is emotional saying how much she learned. And I'm sitting over here just emotional saying how much I've learned.
Yeah, but but it's a powerful moment. You know what I'm saying? When you interviewing someone who is giving you tools that you could take back with you, so
Yeah.
you can become a better person, or to navigate certain situations, or if you in an uncharted water type situation, you'll be
Yeah.
able to know how to navigate through it. See, I like to be on shows that's meaningful that I can take something back from versus me just all the time taking back drama. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I want
Right.
to know what tools can I have, because I never know who may come to me that may have these issues, and I can be able to navigate them in the right direction. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I want to watch something like just in case I could be going through something. I
Yeah.
want to know, okay, so what resources could I use that can put me, in place to do better?
Yeah. We live in a world where people place us in boxes that we don't ask to be in. And I know that I've been a victim of that for my whole adult life up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I finally just said no more. But people would always place me in this perfect box. And so when they would find out things about me, the first thing they would be is like a magic trick, like, aha, you know, you're not as perfect as I thought. And I'm like, but I wasn't trying to be, I wasn't trying to be as perfect as I thought. Right. So it's always good when you can find people that can tell you it's okay to be transparent. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to tell your truths. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to wear shades when you have a black eye, because that black eye can help somebody else remove themselves from a situation before they get a black eye, right? So it's always beautiful when I have conversations with people that just makes me feel comfortable being myself.
You know what my new favorite word is? I'm learning and I'm doing so much research and understanding is vulnerability.
Mm.
People don't know how to be vulnerable. We're so scared to be vulnerable. But do you know how much at peace that you can be when you allow yourself to be vulnerable? When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you put you in a space that you allow no one to hurt you.
Yes.
You allow someone to, degrade you, and you only want to be around people that are open and honest as you are.
You know what?
That's
That
beautiful.
is well said,
Yeah,
and that's still a working process for me.
it is. It
But
is.
in the line of work that I'm in, you can be vulnerable.
Right.
You always got to be on 10 to make people do their job.
But you got to look at, Candace, I challenge you to look at what does vulnerability look like for you? Because everybody is going to look different. And what you got to be careful, what's the scariest part is I travel on this road of being a better person. Not
Mhm.
everybody can travel that road because when you begin to change and think differently, people will never let you forget who you were. And
Yeah.
that is the challenge. It's like, I am
Yes.
trying to be better, but you are working my nerves.
I I get that every day.
Right. And so I had this one person says, I was like, oh, I had this friend and I said, oh, he upsets me. He says, the challenge is not to allow that person to make you upset. So what is it about that person that makes you upset?
Well, see, the thing is, it's not so much as the person as far as dealing with me, but it's more or less like dealing with the actual organization that is turning around and tearing people families or doing things that's bad to them or breaking Texas laws and things of that such. I'm not about
Candace, but you and I suffer. I think the reason we get along so well is because we suffer from the same illness, and that is passion. Because I think that our passion takes over our drive sometimes. And I think that speaks to what Nathan is saying as far as being able to become vulnerable, and also being able to remove yourself mentally if you can't remove yourself physically from situations, because we're very passionate. So when we become so passionate, it becomes personal.
Yeah. You know what I've done?
Yeah, I want to fight. You know
what I've done, Candace, is I'm a part of a lot of stuff, but for my own mental health and safety is that I've had to step away from a lot of stuff. Everything, you don't have to be I realize I don't have to be a part of everything. There's a space for me. And so what I do also want to do is challenge you is that where can I, if I'm not being effective in this space, how can I better utilize? And what I really a strong component is really policy. So who makes the decision to make these changes? And that's who I'm going to argue with, because usually
that's who I go to.
She argue.
Oh, let me tell you, Nathan. I'm definitely going to say this. It was a work in progress for me, because when I first got started in this line of work, it was hard for me to kind of express, with being disappointed with our people lying to us. Does that kind of make sense? So when it's to the point when I first got started with this business, and I'm clearly seeing that you're lying and you're trying to take my license from me, instead of me going in navigating to deal with who deals with the policy, who does this, I jumped on top of the table and say, who wants some? You understand what I'm saying? And then turn around was like, call the cops, because I'm gonna have the news and everybody, because everybody going to jail. But see, now it's like, I don't go based on how I feel. I go based on what the facts are, because those are imputable. So that means, guess what? I'm a back in the corner that way.
And a good time to bring it up is that who are you fighting for? You bring them back in. You are fighting for injustice of individuals that are incarcerated. You're fighting for children that don't have. Bring it all back. I watched that show with the kid the other day, and I was listening like how excited he was, Candace, about her wisdom, and I was like, and she talked about marketing and bringing in this child. Like, you have to put a human touch to it, and we have to get back to the person, the system that we're trying to improve and help everybody realize that, hey, this is not about us. This is about the children, the population, whatever, and put a human touch to it, and that's what connection comes in, because everybody connects to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you couldn't have said it better.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Well, Nathan, we thank you so much for
joining. I'm telling y'all, this has been so therapeutic. Like, I love being in these spaces, and it has been so therapeutic.
Yes. Well, it's been awesome just speaking with you. I'm happy we were able to get you on today.
Absolutely.
What a way to finish out the week. What a way. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Guys, please share. Hit Nathan up if you have business ideas or anything like that. We are just so excited. We're elated that he was able to come. And Dr. Matthews, I thank you so much for being here today also.
And so you as well, because what I love beautiful. I know, that's what I loved about this. And then what I loved was the transparency, because it made me even more comfortable to where I can actually open up. You know what I mean? So I think that was just awesome. So, and that leaves with tonight's quote. Have a vision, be demanding. Colin Powell. I so love Colin Powell.
That was. Can we get that one more time though?
Oh, absolutely. Have a vision. Be demanding. Colin Powell. Yes.
You have to fight for the space that you want.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Matthews, as always, it's been beautiful. I can't wait to see you next week for Hot Topics. And next
week, no, your girl won't be.
Oh yeah, my God, you won't be. Well, she's gonna be out next week. Yeah.
I will be out next week, but
you'll be watching us. You'll be watching from where you are.
Yes.
Okay, so everyone, make sure y'all share.
Serial people. Yeah.
Well, guys, make sure you share. We love each of you. Pass it on, invite new friends, because we are here. And remember, if you are not speaking truth to power, you are not fighting the power.
Absolutely. Make sure.